Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the English with Gemma podcast. Today, we're going to dive right in with our topic, which is all about social media and this idea of whether it's more of a blessing or a curse. So, a blessing means like a good thing, and a curse means a bad thing. So, in my opinion, it's a bit of both. And I'm going to kind of talk about my ideas around why it's both. And I would love to hear your opinion on social media. So you can always comment below to join in the discussion. So basically, let's start with a little bit of context about social media. Now, I was born in 1997, so I'm currently 27 years old. And I think I was born in a time where we were kind of on the cusp, on the border between social media becoming relevant and super important, and then like kind of more old school technologies, like VHS and tapes and things like that. I remember when DVDs became a thing. I used to use MSN Messenger, and I remember when Facebook like became popular and getting my Facebook account. So I think I kind of grew up when obviously the internet already existed and social medias already existed, but the types of social media that we know today didn't exist yet. I was born in a time when they were like just coming out. So I think I have kind of an interesting perspective on that kind of stuff. So there's no doubt that social media has now become an integral part of our day-to-day lives. Even my grandma has Instagram, like I think it's spanning generations now. Like I think most people are on some form of social media. Um, Obviously, those include platforms like the things that I'm going to talk about today include Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Snapchat, those kind of things. I guess YouTube, but I don't really know if YouTube counts as a social media. What do you guys think about that? Let me know. Let me know on YouTube in the comments. So we know that those platforms boast billions of users worldwide. And according to some recent statistics that I found, um, over 4.5 billion people are active on social media. And we spend an average of 2 hours and 27 minutes per day on these platforms. I probably spend even longer because of all of my English with Gemma stuff and my editing and all of the time and effort that goes into that kind of stuff. I think I spend more time than I would like to on social media. So I think we can all admit that a significant chunk of our lives is spent on social media and connected to the digital world rather than the real world. So why do we spend so much time on social media? Let's dive into the benefits first, the good things about social media. So, of course, it offers numerous advantages. Firstly, it can connect you with friends and family across the globe, breaking down those geographical barriers and making everybody feel a lot more connected and closer. Um, you know, that became really evident during the COVID-19 pandemic. And that is actually when I started teaching English online on Zoom. So that kind of launched my solo career in teaching, because before the pandemic, I was not using social media or technology to teach. I was teaching in person in an academy. So, obviously for me, social media has been a huge blessing, and it's allowed me to teach people and find students and things like that. So, yeah, I think COVID-19 social media became even more important. I remember my friends were having like virtual parties and meetups and hangouts all through video chat and different platforms that allowed you to play games together. And, there were celebrities doing free online concerts during the pandemic. So I think that, social media was already so popular, and then the pandemic took it that step further and made it even more popular. Secondly, I think social media is a really powerful platform for education and information. So, of course, my English with Gemma is a great example with that. I'm able to share so much free ESL, English as a second language, learning content. And I'm able to connect with different teachers and my followers. That's how I find students. So I think it's really beneficial for me as an educator, but also those who are seeking different forms of education. And of course, I just mentioned information as well. So as we know, news spreads really rapidly these days on social media, and educational content also is so accessible. And I think like news, honestly, I don't really listen to the radio or read the newspaper anymore here in Bermuda. I just follow Bermuda News on Instagram, and that's how I get my news. So I use social media as a platform to consume my news as well. So again, on the point of education, you can learn new skills, join online courses, and like online groups of people studying together, and you can stay informed about world events in real time. I feel like social media might even be faster than some news channels when it comes to certain things. You see stuff pop up on Instagram almost instantly after it happens. Something else I wanted to mention was platforms like LinkedIn that can also help, with business and job opportunities. I think LinkedIn is a really interesting social media because it's very much just focused on business, but it works and it's super popular. So that's another great advantage of social media. And I think my final point on the benefits would be about giving a voice to people who were marginalized and voiceless before they were able to access social media. So, activism, political activism has found a new home online in the virtual space. And I think movements like the Me Too movement and Black Lives Matter, those have really gained significance in the past couple of years, and they've gained momentum. And I think they have brought about significant social change. A lot of the times I feel very helpless with things that are going on in the world because sometimes I think, how much does it really help to share a story? But sometimes it's really just about getting that information out there and sharing it with the world and kind of making people more aware and spreading awareness. So I do try to share things as much as possible, but I'm also wary about doing that because I've had some really bad backlash in the past on my social media when I've tried to get involved in political movements and share my voice and opinion. So now I kind of shy away from trying to do that, and I just try to stick to English learning content on my Instagram. However, I do think that you can now advocate for causes that you believe in and reach a global audience in a way that you couldn't before if you choose to use your platform in that way. So I obviously personally like I I can really appreciate social media and how much it's done for me because I use it for my online English teaching business. And it has been so crucial for me and such a big part of my journey and my career. And it's something that I use daily. It's also helped me a lot when I was living in Spain to keep in touch with my family and friends, and also to make new connections with people. So, my followers and my students, I've met 95% of them through Instagram, which when you think about it, that's really amazing. And I'm so grateful for that. So, yeah, I think that social media has loads of benefits, but as with anything, there's a flip side. So, let's explore some of the downsides of social media. So, one of the most discussed issues when it comes to the use of social media is mental health. So, studies have shown that excessive use of social media can lead to feelings of anxiety, depression, and loneliness. The constant comparison with others, highlight reels, and things like that, it can really create unrealistic expectations of what your life should be looking like, and it can create this sense of inadequacy, and you kind of start to compare yourself with people, and everybody shares their best moments on social media and their, you know, fun holidays and vacations and things like that. So it's important to remember that social media is not a reflection of what's really going on in someone's life. So just be careful when you compare yourself to other people. You know, it's not often exactly a true reflection of reality. And there was another study done by the Royal Society for Public Health, and it's shown that social media use is linked to increased rates of anxiety and depression in young people. It's also literally been designed to be highly, highly addictive. So I want to give two recommendations right now. I think everyone can benefit from these two things. So the first one is a Netflix documentary called The Social Dilemma. I really recommend watching this because it literally shows you how social media has been specifically designed by psychologists to literally be addictive. It's really important to educate yourself about that and then be more informed. And then you can make better choices on how you want to use social media. And another thing I wanted to recommend was a book that I read a few years ago called How to Break Up with Your Phone. So I read that back in 2021 before I started my English with Gemma Instagram. And reading that book led me to want to take a 4-month break away from all social media. So that included Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, everything. The only thing I kept was WhatsApp to keep in contact with people, but I took 4 months off and it was the happiest and most peaceful I've ever felt in my entire life. So now I don't think I would be able to take such a long break just because of my English with Gemma, unfortunately. But if you haven't taken a break from social media in a while and you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed and maybe anxious, maybe you compare yourself to others a lot, I would really recommend taking a break if you can. You'd be surprised how easy it is and how much better you feel, and how much more connected with the real world you might feel. So, another big issue on social media is privacy, right? We give so much of our personal information away without even thinking about it most of the time. We share so much about ourselves. Obviously, I'm a very public person on the internet, but I am careful about what I share. And the risk of data breaches and things like that, it's always present. There's always the risk that your personal sensitive information might get, you know, released into the wrong hands. People might hack you. Companies often use our personal data to track and analyze our online behavior so that they can target advertisements at us. And sometimes they really cross ethical lines. They don't always do this ethically. So I don't know if you guys have heard about it, but I think in the Social Dilemma documentary, I believe I'm thinking of the right documentary. They talk about this a lot. The Cambridge Analytica scandal. That's a huge reminder of how our data can easily be exploited. And basically, that is the reason why now, when you go on websites and it says, Do you consent to having cookies used? Do you consent to your data being used and you have to click I accept or no, I don't? That was never a thing before the Cambridge Analytica scandal, where they basically stole a bunch of personal information and then they started using it politically. I can't really remember exactly, but it was really bad. Again, another issue, I think social media can be a place where fake news is often spread and misinformation can get around so quickly. It's so easy to take things at face value and to believe whatever you read or see or hear, but you really have to be skeptical, because the spread of false information can have serious consequences. They could impact elections or spread harmful health advice. I don't know if you guys remember, but during the COVID-19 pandemic, Donald Trump was telling people to like drink bleach to get rid of the virus. So, you know, be careful what you believe. And the algorithms that drive social media often prioritize sensational content. So, like viral content, crazy videos, that kind of stuff, those get pushed via the algorithm. They get shown to us more often, which can perpetuate and deepen these social divides and these, when there's wars going on and things like that, depending on what side you're on, if you even take a side, you're going to see more of that type of content that's already reaffirming your beliefs. And I think sometimes that can be really detrimental. I think we should always try to make our own opinions about things, and we should always be very well informed from both sides. Make sure you're checking your sources of where you're getting your information from. Watch a variety of different news channels or consume a variety of different, you know, sources because you have to make up your mind at the end of the day on where you stand with any issue. It doesn't have to be political or as crazy and big as war, but anything, any issue, any situation, you should really take into account all the information and then make sure that you're forming your own opinion because it's so easy to see a video, go immediately to the comments, read the comments, and then form an opinion. But sometimes your opinion is literally someone else's comment. You might watch a video and think like, oh, that was cute, like a video of a dog, I don't know, doing something, and you're like, oh, cute. And then you go to the comments and it's like, this is dog abuse because this. And then you're like, oh, maybe it is dog abuse, That happens to me all the time. So you got to be careful. So where does this leave us? I think it's a combination of both. I think social media can be great, but I think it can also be really, really bad. And like many tools, I don't think it's inherently just good or just bad. I think it's how we use it and implement it into our life that matters. So I'm going to share a few tips to ensure that you're using social media mindfully. So what I mean by mindfully is like really thinking about how you're using it. And the opposite of mindful would be mindless. So make sure you're not using social media mindlessly without thinking. So the first tip is to set boundaries. For example, I have time limits on all of my apps. I have an hour and 30 minutes on Instagram, and I have an hour on WhatsApp daily. So limit your screen time. And also, if you've been scrolling for a while, try to take a little break and come back. I know it's so easy to get sucked into a rabbit hole and just scroll for hours, but most of the time after you do that, you feel bad and you feel a little depressed. Maybe you feel bad because you've been procrastinating and you haven't been very productive. So I think you should definitely be mindful about how much time you're spending on social media. And if you have an iPhone, or I think every phone nowadays has this, you have a built-in app to manage your time on different apps. So it's called like screen time or I don't know, limit your time or whatever. So you can go in there and you can set how many hours a day you want to spend on each thing. You can also say like your phone is inactive from a certain time until a certain time. My phone unlocks at 9 a.m. and it locks at 10 p.m. So yeah, I think that can be really helpful. My second tip is curating your feed. So, what I mean by that is just follow accounts that uplift and inspire you and get rid of all the junk and all the stuff that causes stress and negativity, or even people who you like, but you find yourself constantly comparing yourself with them. Just unfollow them or mute those accounts. You know, you don't have to necessarily unfollow them, but if you find yourself constantly feeling bad or negative after consuming their content, maybe that's a sign that you should limit those kinds of things and only follow things that make you feel good. Third tip is to make sure you're always verifying information. So before you share a story or a post, make sure you check the credibility and the source and make sure it's not fake news. And, be a part of the solution to combat misinformation. Try not to be a part of the problem. Be a part of the solution. Number four is to engage positively. So use social media to encourage and motivate and support others. Like, just what's the point of getting into fights with people in comments and things like that? I just always think that's so stupid and it's such a waste of time. You know, like if you're arguing with people on the internet, what are you doing with your life? Like, we don't need to be doing that. Let's just share positive interactions, and that in turn is going to enhance our online experience because we have enough negativity in the world, right? And my final point is to really reflect. Reflect on how much time you're spending on social media, how it makes you feel, and if it's causing more harm than good, it might be time to make some changes or take a break. So, in conclusion, social media can be both a blessing and a curse. It connects us, it educates us, and it amplifies our voices, but it can also challenge our mental health, our privacy, and our trust in information. So, I think the key takeaway is just to be using it thoughtfully and intentionally. You don't have to stop using it. You just need to pay a little bit more attention, maybe. And maybe you feel totally fine about how you use social media, but me personally, I really didn't like how much time I was spending, and I had to kind of reevaluate those things. So, thank you guys for listening. I can't believe we're already on episode 10. It's so exciting. I'm really enjoying the whole process of this podcast. And as always, feel free to send me any suggestions. And until next week, keep learning and having fun and being mindful when you're on social media. Bye, guys.